Yo, what's up, guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting. I'm one of the HCS commentators, and we have another HCS weekly report where today and for the rest of the days leading up until DreamHack Dallas, we're going to be doing a deep dive into every single team in the HCS, starting with the number 10 seed in Sentinels. Whether you're a casual fan, whether you're a veteran, a hardcore fan, no matter what, you're going to want to watch this series. Like I said, it's a deep dive, so we're going to talk about where they're at, you know, what kind of tournament results have they been putting up recently, what are they looking like on scrims, what are expectations, and many more. And before we get started the video, got a question of the day, and the question for you guys is going to be, where do you see Sentinels placing this event? All right, let's get started with the video. So, like I said, number 10 seed Sentinels coming in. King Nick, Lethal, Spartan, and the newly acquired Suspector. And remember, not too long ago, you actually had Collect, super young talent, high damage dealer, knows how to stay alive. You know, his wonderful motto of stick and move, I think it's absolutely hilarious, but I think it's really good to describe what his playstyle is like. Put shots, put as much damage on the enemy team as possible while taking as little damage back. It almost perfectly describes how he plays. So I love that it's been his stream titles recently. Really big fan of Collect. But now you have Suspector coming in, who I'm also a very big fan of as well. Coming in from G1, who haven't been exactly performing the way we had expected them to. Now Suspector coming in, and Sentinels talked about Suspector being a much better fit for the team, being where maybe they weren't getting as much value out of Collect, and vice versa. Maybe Collect wasn't getting as much value out of the Sentinels team, where Suspector fits this mold a little bit more. Let's talk about how things have been in the past, and let's talk about where they've been looking recently. So, Sentinels have found themselves in Pool B. They're going to be going up against the likes of Native White, FaZe, and Six Karma. We'll be going over each and every one of these teams in some of the future videos. Six Karma, one of the new squads. I guess they were an older squad, one of the newer faces to pool play, because last time we saw Six Karma during LAN was at Charlotte, and they were one round away from making it to championship bracket, but it was Proton Gaming that came up with the upset on them and made a bit of a run of their own. Native White top 4 at Charlotte, and then FaZe Clan, who are the number 2 seed in the world at the moment, is where Sentinels end up landing. It's, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not an easy bracket. I find it hard to believe that they can beat out FaZe, to be honest with you. I think Sentinels have been playing Optic really well, but I think FaZe are a much different play style and a much different beast that they would have to go through. We'll talk about what they look like as far as scrims or tournament play in a little bit. Native White, I will say, in my opinion, Native White are probably the favorites in that matchup. However, much more beatable than FaZe. If I'm Sentinels, I'm going into this matchup believing that we can win this out and be the number 2 seed, especially when it comes to LAN. And then Six Karma, who have been playing incredible. They even upset Tapping Button's former team. The Six Karma made a nasty run throughout their 4K and come out as the number 1 seed. And good for them. They had a great run at Charlotte. Lure Strike and the boys are absolutely phenomenal. We'll talk about them in another video. Again, not an easy pool whatsoever, but Sentinels do have an opportunity to come out as a better seed than they're going in as the number 3 in their pool, and could come out the number 2, and hey, who knows, maybe go on a run and take that number 1 seed. Let's talk about where Sentinels have been so far. We're going to go all the way back to Charlotte, where King Nick, Lethal, and Spartan again, back then we're going by Collect, or going with Collect, excuse me. They did end up placing top 8, which, not bad. I feel like if you were looking towards Sentinels even early on 2023, you probably said, okay, this is a top 8 team. You would love for them to get top 6, but it felt like top 4 might have been a little bit of a stretch. And I think top I wouldn't be like completely disappointed with top 12, but maybe you would have called that a bit underperforming, and then top 16 would have been extremely underperforming. It was like, you know, press the panic button. And I feel like top 8 is kind of exactly where we wanted to see Sentinels. Now, maybe that's not where they wanted to see themselves, but I feel like even if you go back in time and you ask yourself, okay, where do you see Sentinels right now in the competitive landscape, you probably would have had them exactly in that spot. So I would say meeting expectations there. Now the question comes to mind is, have they continued to meet expectations? Going to HCS 4K, another top 8 finish. The teams that they ended up losing out to got 3-0'd by FaZe in the upper bracket. That is nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. FaZe, again, the number 2 team in the world. However, if you do remember, they will be running into FaZe in pool play, and it must be a little bit of gotta keep it like in the back of your mind that we did lose to this team, you know, fairly recently. This is going back to the first 4K, which I think was April 23rd, I want to say it was. Did lose that 3-0 in the winners bracket. Sentinels ended up falling into elimination bracket, and they were able to beat out a Red Hot Mantra and take Native Red to a game 5. Native Red have been a little bit of a thorn in Sentinel's side. They seem to struggle with that team just a bit. Taking them to game 5, not bad, being, you know, a few kills away most likely from moving on into that top 6 category. I don't think this was a bad tournament for Sentinels whatsoever. I would say, again, you know, kind of meet expectations. Although I will say top 8 in the world is different than getting top 8 in just North America, because, you know, now you got to deal with the likes of the Quadrants and the Navis and the Six Karmas and so many hungry teams outside of just North America. Sentinels will have to deal with them again going into LAN. Then after that, we went into, I think it was April 30th, we started the Open 2K and ended up finishing out on May 4th, where Sentinels, again, we're seeing, I guess, a level of consistency here. Another top 8 finish. Why don't we take a look at where we ended up in the bracket? So, running into Optic, obviously not a favorable matchup going for Sentinels. I will say that Sentinels have been playing Optic a lot better than what they've been playing like in the past. I feel like Sentinels continue to run into Optic, whether it be in pools during the 4Ks or even in the bracket during 2Ks. No matter what, some way, somehow, Sentinels will run into Optic, and they do generally play them well, especially when it comes to Empyrean CTF or Empyrean Team Slayer. It seems like Sentinels have Optic's number on Empyrean specifically. Going into the May 4th, where we got into, I guess, Championship Thursday, if you will, Sentinels did end up running into a G1 who G1 definitely a bit up and down recently, but I would say back late April, G1 were running things. And actually, if I remember correctly, G1 this might have been the first tournament that they played with Suppressed, and Suppressed was balling. So a little bit of a honeymoon phase for G1, bringing in their new squad. It must have felt a little bit a little bit I don't want to use the word sad. I feel like it must have, Suspected probably felt some type of way losing out to G1, even though I'm sure there's probably no bad blood between the two. I feel like you want to beat the team that dropped you, and sadly Sentinels weren't able to do so. Again, it's going back all the way to since April 23rd, but yes, I was sorry, actually May 4th, Sentinels weren't able to do so. Sentinels get knocked out, but again, another top 8 finish, not the end of the. This is where I would say, you know, you want to worry a little bit if you're a fan of Sentinels, because as you can see with this graphic here, Sentinels didn't finish within the top 8. Sentinels in the winners bracket got 3-0'd by Complexity. This obviously the Complexity featuring Monster and Collect. So you know, you drop Collect to bring in Suspector from G1, And then a couple of tournaments ago, you lose out to that G1 roster, and then the player that you drop to bring Suspector on ends up 3-0ing you. Now, again, this is online, and a lot of people will argue that, say that if Sentinels Complexity ended up matching up on land, they feel like it'd be different results. However, I'm just calling it as I see it right now. Complexity did come up with the 3-0. I will say one thing in their defense, Complexity have been red hot, and they've beaten Optic. They beat Optic twice. They beat FaZe. You know, the only team they seem like struggling against is Space Station Gaming. So if there's one thing I will say is that if you are going to lose to a team that's been this hot, maybe we shouldn't beat up Sentinels too much. We do see that Native Red were able to get the win on them again. So we kind of talked about before that Sentinels have been struggling a bit when going up against Native Red. Luckily for them, they won't see Native Red in their pool, but they will see a Native squad, a Native White. It might be just as good as Native Red. Some might argue even better when it comes to LAN, and they will be run up against a Native squad. So you got 2 top 8 finishes and a top 12 finish for Sentinels over the last 3 online events. I want to say that that's kind of like, you know, meeting expectations, kind of like exactly where we want them to be. The top 12 is a little bit scary, but not the end of the world, knowing that they lost to Complexity and Native Red were 2 very good teams. Like if Sentinels are really legitimately gunning for top 8, top 6, I feel like Native Red and Complexity both are gunning for top 4, especially if they're able to replicate the same success they've had online. In Native Red's case, you know, more on land. But if Complexity is able to, you know, replicate the same success that they've had online and bring that over to land, they should be legitimately gunning for top 4. So these are 2 teams that are most likely will place higher than them. It's not like they got upset by a team like, you know, Status Quo or Mantra, who, in my opinion, are teams that Sentinels need to be beating. Finally, we're going to take a look at Scrims, and I know the first you guys are probably thinking, oh no, Tony and his Scrims, he's going to put everything in Scrims. I say it all the time. We don't put everything in Scrims, don't complete. And when we're looking at Sentinels, since May 13, which was the last tournament, so far, the Scrims have not gone. And again, you guys know me, I love Sentinels. I'm not hard on them for no reason. Big Spartan fan. You guys know I love Suspector. I love this roster. I really do. Shopify Rebellion come out with a 9-6. It's close, but Shopify Rebellion, a team that they will have to contend with if they want to keep it top 8 placing or go above that, did beat them out only by 3 games. Optic did 13-0 them. I know it's Optic Gaming. I know they're the number 1 seed in the world. However, some way, somehow, you got to come up with a few wins. I'm not happy. I know some people are like, oh, it's Optic, but I'm not happy with that result. I know for a fact that they're not happy either. Some way, somehow, you got to get a few wins. I'm not saying you got the 13 Optic. You got a 13 Optic, but I would love to see this be 11-2. I would love to see this be 10-3. I don't think anybody's happy with going into Scrims and not winning a single game. Sentinels going up against Mantra. For those guys who don't know, Mantra, who wasn't able to make it to land, did make a great run, by the way. Ace, Morley, Septify, and Super CC. I would have loved to see Mantra on land because I feel like they really started to figure things out at the right time. So you got to beat out Mantra. Again, I know it's just Scrims. I know you guys are probably rolling your eyes right now, but you have to beat out Mantra in Scrims. And like I think Mantra and Cloud9 are a good test for Sentinels. You got 2 teams that are hungry, 2 teams that are just barely sitting out of the top 16 in the world. probably easily top 16 in North America, that are gunning for your spot as a top 8 team, that are gunning to be in every single pool play, every single land, and 2 teams that are catching ground on the likes of Sentinels, on the likes of Shopify Rebellion. And if you want to keep your spot, you have to beat them out. You have to make sure that you're always older brother. And I know it's just one game, 6-5, 6 out of 11. But you have to make sure Mantra know that they are younger brother, and that you run this. Maybe, you know, online, I know there's a bunch of variables. I know there's a bunch of X factors. So it's hard for me to be too hard on them. But I will say congratulations, Mantra. You guys really are in the right direction. 7-5 over Cloud9. Again, I'm glad that you're beating out Cloud9 and Scrims, but I would like to see this be a little bit more. I want to see, I don't know, say 9-3 favor of Sentinels, especially like a week before going to Dallas. I would love to see Sentinels dominate a little bit more over Cloud9, who are also struggling their own. I was big on Cloud9 early this year, and so far they've had a bit of an up and down. And more down than up, honestly. I'm not gonna say that I'm worried about Sentinels, because I feel like with Lethal's problems that he's been having online, the game's been very inconsistent for him. With the amount of experience that they're bringing to LAN, I think that's really important. I feel like whenever these matches get close, like for example, if they're going up against 6 Karma, and 6 Karma somehow are gaining ground, they bring it to a game number 5 some way, somehow. I don't believe it's gonna happen. I'm still gonna lean on the side of Sentinels, because I feel like they have so much more experience and kind of like a been there, done that mentality. I think it's one thing to have experience on LAN, and I think it's another thing to also have like be able to win on LAN. I think that's really important, and right now that's on the side of Sentinels, and that's what makes me say that I'm not gonna worry too much about them, but I will keep my eye on Sentinels, the number 10 seed going into Dallas, and hopefully they're able to keep that. All right, guys, that's your HCS Weekly Report. We're going over the number 10 seed in Sentinels going into Dallas in Pool B, and got top 8 over at Charlotte. Hopefully they get top 8 again. All right, guys, it's out.